Hey everybody, so my name is Ryan and this is my research proposal called America's Gridlock Approach to Global Warming, a call for a major climate change treaty. So we start with my executive summary, which opens up my proposal, and it begins with just explaining some of the uh, dangers of climate change, which I'm a firm believer in, and that's why I decided to look at how America can take a better direction against climate change. So this just sets that up, and immediately it questions um, why we didn't sign the Kyoto Protocol, which we will get into later. This is the question, but I'll get to that in a little bit. This is just my introduction. Um, and it's important. I started out by saying that I'm not questioning whether America has taken any steps to reduce CO2 emissions and take action against climate change, but I'm questioning how we do it and what we could do better. So that's explaining that, and this is just showing some of the benefits um, if we did sign the Kyoto Protocol that we would be doing, which I mentioned the cap and trade policies, renewable portfolio standards, clean energy, so on and so forth. The literature review. I'm not completely done with this part yet, but I'm getting there. And again, I start off with some of the things climate change, um, where we stand with it, and the problems. And one of them is the overlapping of state and federal policies. And I found this very interesting. A very big problem is the federal government has issued environmental policies, but states have actually taken more action and have tried to exceed what the federal policies would actually have said. So that it makes everything really confusing for both the states and the federal government, um, and that I point out right there. Um, let's see. I move on to the perception problem. So, the perception problem I also found very, very interesting. Um, Basically, when America decided to not sign the Kyoto Protocol, it raised a lot of eyebrows around the globe. And I found this, and it was a statement from the White House back in 2001. I'm actually going to read it. President Bush failed to sign and ratify the Kyoto Protocol because, and I quote, it exempts 80% of the world, including major population centers such as China and India, from compliance and would cause serious harm to the U.S. economy. So, and I even talk about how other countries, when we made that decision to not sign it, other countries followed. So, a lot of people questioned our commitment to climate change, or fighting climate change rather, when we neglected to sign the Kyoto Protocol. Um, and then I found this, which was great, but I said this one public opinion, just one, would really counter what President Bush said in that statement I just read. And it was from, yep, it's Stanford, a Stanford public opinion poll that asked, should the United States take action on global warming regardless of the actions of other countries? So, among those states, they averaged 61.7 supported that we take action regardless of what any other nation does, which I found extremely interesting. So, the research design of my proposal. If we are to get the public opinion on signing a major climate change treaty, I am proposing that a referendum be implemented in the 2016 election. And it would be hard to do, but um, gaining the public support does a number of different things, which I break down, all of which would, if nothing else, clear this argument up. So, back to the design, along with the President, Congress, etc. I wanted a simple question that is very much like, and I actually use this um, kind of in my proposal, was the question that Scotland asked, and it was very basic, it was very simple, and it was, should we secede from England and become our own country? Yes or no? So, I think it needs to be very simple, just like that. And the question I am proposing be asked is, do you believe that America should sign onto a major treaty or protocol that would hold us responsible for lowering CO2 emissions? Now, in that, after the citizens vote, and this is a nationwide thing, the two groups that I will be focusing on are coastal states and inland states. And there's a very important reason for that. Um, we can easily track voting patterns if we break the votes down by those two groups. I explain in this proposal that coastal states are expected to uh, widely, overwhelmingly support signing a major treaty or protocol that would, require us to lower CO2 emissions. The inland states, though, very, very unpredictable. I mean, the data that I have been seeing and researching shows that I still think it would pass, but it would make it interesting to see where each state would stand. And I do have data that will support why I think the an overwhelming majority of America would vote yes on this. Um, Perhaps the more interesting part of my research proposal is the second part, um, and it's focusing on governors throughout the country. So, what I want to do is, after this vote takes place, my goal would be to get every governor, which is the highest ranking state official in any state, on record and commenting on how their state voted. Which I'm going to show you how I'm going to break that down a little bit in my chart, but it would make it's essentially holding them accountable for what the majority of their state wanted. So it would make it very, very difficult for a governor to come out publicly and have to say they're against what their state just recently voted for. So, or even if they did sided with what the majority voted for, then you could bring it up and expect that they would be making efforts. So, Group 1, again, the coastal states, I just discussed them and what different threats they've been experiencing and dangers, which some of the most popular are rising sea levels, um, rising temperatures, change in storm patterns, um, all stuff that we've heard with climate change before. The inland states, again, where are they? Right here. This represents a more unique situation, which is why I think this proposal is very necessary. Um, they don't typically deal with things as specific as rising sea levels, but there are issues that they have to deal with storms and other natural disasters. But um, coastal states are definitely more at risk. So we're going to see, this proposal will see if voters are taking that into consideration. Now, this is from Columbia Law School, and I had to put this in my proposal because I think it was that great. This breaks down in four categories, pretty much how many efforts each state has been making um, in battling climate change. And category one, which is yellow, is right here, no discussion or inaccurate discussion of climate change. And then 2, 3, and then 4 is a thorough discussion of climate change. So, I mean, as we can see, it's no secret the coastal states, including Alaska and Hawaii, and then Florida going up the east coast, are taking it far more seriously. Um, and I mean, it's primarily inland states that aren't. But something I found very interesting is no discussion or inaccurate discussion of climate change. That tells me that obviously there there is something going wrong with a lot of these states with this public policy issue, which again, that's another reason why this proposal is necessary. Um, I mean, a really simplified explanation of why this is necessary is to get everyone on the same page. So, as we go down, the data collection and analysis. Um, this is the quantitative data is basically taking and studying the votes of the people in a state-by-state analysis, and then by a national analysis, which is going to be important also. Um, and when I mention the governors, which is the qualitative part, um, it would be holding the federal government responsible as well, which is another goal of this proposal. Um, I mean, it's essentially putting elected officials on the spot, and it's saying, do you want this or not? And the people in each state can speak up and finally vote yes or no, which is going to make things either very simple or very complicated for um, state and federal governments and local governments. So this is the part of the governors and getting them on record, and this is going to focus on very detailed interviews with governors that's going to get them on record taking a stance on this issue. We go down. So this is the proposal outline, which breaks down the groups, the question asked, which is the same. Now the number of poll workers, that is way too difficult to predict, but because this is going to be something that's, this proposal focuses on something that's going to be added on to the national ballot anyway. So the number of poll workers won't really change because of this, but it's whatever each state normally uses, which I explained will vary by state because each state has different population sizes. And then we take into consideration the percentage of yes and percentage that vote no. This is just bold because that's the national, taking both into consideration. And again, with this, not only will we have a clear majority that support signing a major climate change treaty or not, um, but I mean, from the federal point of view, this is going to be when everything's figured in. We're going to be able to tell a lot. Then table 2, this is going to the governor's part. And some of the questions that we could ask the governors in their interview. The majority of your state voted in favor of America joining a climate change treaty. Do you stand with your state? And, so on and so forth. Will you increase your efforts against climate change after this election? Will you work with the federal government? This is actually really important. Will you work with the federal government if they were to sign a major climate change treaty? So, I mean, if the majority of America said yes, we do want to sign and ratify something like the Kyoto Protocol, the governor's going to have to answer these tough questions. Limitations and challenges. That, I can tell you right now, I didn't do yet, but it will be the costs of getting this done. As many proposals will probably have similar challenges, but that will certainly be the main one there. These are just my sources, and I wanted to show everyone. This is the Stanford, the public opinion polls, and I mean, these are great. I mean, has global warming been happening? And this just shows you an overwhelming, I mean, you can even see on the coasts, the numbers going up there are just extremely high. So, this is a really important issue to me personally, but I think it's a rising issue in popularity throughout America, and there's definitely evidence that supports why I believe the majority of Americans would support signing a major climate change treaty. So, hopefully this proposal can get something done, and that's about it. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions and comments.